what I want to try to do is to clean up this wireless, if I can get the right thing over there, wireless LAN controller that we looked at a little bit yesterday. And I did an awful lot of, made myself some notes up here. The DHCP server and router on a stick are already configured. We'll do DHCP server today, configure DHCP server on a router. Not a big, huge deal to do that. Once we do that, you should then have the ability to go back and set up a topology in something like this and go through and do all of the configurations that you need to do with it. And that's, how do you learn these things? By going through painfully one at a time and doing those things. So the next thing over here, and I see I spelled create wrong. And this is the one, this should be the file that is in the share in the packet tracer. So if I look at the router just to be sure, and if I do a show run, and that's the, well, we do a show IP interface brief. There are other ones here. I have the 10 and the 20, and those are the two VLANs that I'm going to use. And if I do a show run, I've actually, if you wanted to add more VLANs, more SSIDs, if you want to play with this, 30, 40, and 50 are already configured for this thing to do these things. And they've got the default gateway, the default router, the default gateway for all of them is going to be the .1 address of the individual interfaces. So the DHCP server is configured. The router on a stick. And the things that I messed up, big things that I messed up yesterday, first was trunk ports. To configure trunk ports, gig 0102 and fast Ethernet 01 and 02. So let's go ahead and do those. So enable and config T and do interface range gig 0/1 2 and do switch port mode trunk. And it says I can't do that because the encapsulation is auto. So the first thing that I need to do is switch port trunk encapsulation .1x or .1q, .1x. Too many .1s here, .1q. So we've done that, and now using the up arrow key, I should do the switch port mode trunk, and it is now a trunk port. And I also want to do the interface range fast Ethernet 01 to 2. And do switch port, and I've already done, I think, the encapsulation protocol on that one. So if I go here and do a show interface trunk, I see that I only have one VLAN. So now I need to configure those two VLANs, VLAN 10 and VLAN 20. VLAN 10, and then VLAN 20, and we could name them if we want to. And now if I do the show interface trunk, I have all of those so that I can get to the router on a stick to do the routing, to get the DHCP addresses and all of those other things that are available on it. And these are, I think, a couple of things that I really kind of one at a time and finally got it working. Yesterday, oh yeah, I didn't do this one, I didn't add the VLANs. Oh, I didn't do a trunk port here, I didn't do a trunk port there. All of these things need to be trunk ports, and we do need the VLANs so that we have the communication. These guys are just sitting here, they're connected to the CapWAP status, they are connected to, and we have the individual, the one management VLAN. We can have all of that now because we have all of the trunking taking place. So the CapWAP protocol, which is a lot easier to say than all the other stuff, the .1 or .11 radio 0 you see there is up. This one's got one radio in it. And if you start these things from scratch, you do have to put the power supply into the wireless LAN controllers. This one, to communicate to it, is what, 1.3, and I put the username and password over here. This is already got, so this is HTTPS 192.168.1.3. See if we can make this thing work here. The login is admin, and the password is capital P, password 1. Famous Windows 1. The 4 ports that are available on the wireless LAN controller, and if you look closely here, 3 and 4 says PoE, Power over Ethernet, which means that we could put this thing in locations that we might need, or it could be used to power other things, those sorts of things. But this is a Power over Ethernet ports. 1 and 2 are not, and those are the ones that I am using here. So we have the access points that are available, what they are, any dual band radios on this file, and this is you know, kind of an, I shouldn't have done that. So we'll get back to this thing. So we're back to it, back and forth again. The simulation that takes place on this is a little bit, it is in fact simulation. Rogues here is another one that's not going to be configured. I'm not going to turn it on. So what I want to do first is to go in here, and I think that say that over here, configure the trunk ports, including the encapsulation protocol, create interfaces on the wireless LAN controller. So in the controller, we'll go to interfaces, and we have the management interface 192.168.1.3, a virtual one here. If you recall from yesterday when we set this thing up, it created that one. I want to do a new interface on this thing, and we'll call it, I'm just going to call them VLAN 10, and the VLAN ID will be 10 when we do this. And once I apply it, we have the ability to go down here and do some other configurations. The port number is the port number that it comes off of this device, and the port number here is going to be 1. The VLAN identifier 10, it took that, the IP address, and this is going to be 192.168.10, and I'm going to use 2. This is not the default gateway address. This is the address of this interface to communicate with the rest of its network. 255.255.0. The gateway is 192.168.10.1 to do those things. We could put a DHCP server in here. I don't really have to do that because of the way it's configured. If I had a regular, just a DHCP server, not on the router that has all of the VLANs configured that the traffic can go up and down, I probably would have to configure it. So we have configured the first interface, and let's go ahead and do the 20 network, and this will be VLAN 20, and VLAN ID will be 20, and we'll apply it just to see if we can get these things here. We're still going to be on port 1, and we had the multiple 4 ports there that we could use. The IP address 192.168.20.2, 255.255.255.0, 192.168.20.1. Apply that, and now we need to go here to our wireless LANs, and we're going to create a new one, and it's got a drop down here, but create new is the only thing that's here. We'll do a go, and we'll do a profile name, and I'm just going to do VLAN 10 and the SSID VLAN 10, just so that I don't have to try to keep things sorted out. VLAN, we obviously would do something different. Here's where again I messed up yesterday. We got to enable it, little checkbox, and VLAN 10 goes to VLAN 10. So we're now associating the VLAN with the SSID. And I should apply, I want to try something here. A couple of times I've done this, and you have to do the Flex Connect local switching. Flex Connect, remember, allows us, and anything that they have, and I don't know, half a thought, anything that they have that you can configure in Packet Tracer is something that's probably going to be susceptible to questions on the test. But Flex Connect was the one that if the device, if we lost the wireless LAN controller, then they could communicate on their own LAN. I thought I had to do that. I want to try it without it, and we'll see what happens here when we do that. So we'll do an apply here where we've associated this one. I'm going to go back and let's go ahead and do the same thing with VLAN 20. So let's see, wireless LAN, and again here the only thing type wireless LAN, VLAN 20, and we'll call it VLAN 20, and we will apply it, and again enable it, activate it, and associate it with VLAN 20. Apply that, and let's see if we get anything. See if I have to go back to that flex connect here. So when I look at this guy, hey, I have VLAN 10 and VLAN 20, if you see there, are now being sent to that device. I didn't configure any security on these things. You could have, we could have, and this is where we get into the, what are these things good for? I could go in here, the security. What kind of security do I want? 802.1x is not supported in this, but if we were doing it for real, 802.1x, which we looked at, radius server, usernames and passwords, to get into a specific SSID, a specific VLAN. The SSIDs are now associated with the VLANs. Or we could set up a static WEP, it's still there. WPA or WPA2 could be here. So we could do all of those, and I'm just going to leave it as none. We also have layer 3 security here, a web policy. The AAA servers, and this is why it doesn't work, you can't go in and define a radius server here because it's not enabled. Quality of service, where we give in silver the best effort's the only one that's going to show up in Packet Tracer. In the lecture you saw the others, the gold and the platinum to allow video, or to give video priority, and then the platinum I think was voice to give the phone calls priority. If we had policies are there, and then some of the advanced things, the other one down here, the flex switching, and it said if configured, and here would be if configured, and then that information is going to be sent. All of the information that we configure here is going to be sent to these lightweight access points that are down here. The next thing that we need to do is get ourselves a wireless device, I guess, and we have multiple wireless devices. The first thing I want to do is go through you got to do some configuration changes on the computers, and to do any of these module changes you have to turn them off, and then we will take the wired NIC and drag it over here since it doesn't have the capability to do two. There are a number of wireless NICs in here. The only one that'll work in this is the one at the top, the WMP300N, and if you do anything else, it'll tell you you have to have that one. So when I do that, and I want to try this again, see if it will attempt an association with these things, and it took it a while, and there we go. Yeah, we have, well, we only have the management VLAN, and that's the issue that I had. They show up here, but they really don't get sent. So let's go back and try my other thing here and see if when I enable these, now let's just try VLAN 20 and see the difference from one to the other. And this is, you know, the simulation. That is something that shouldn't have to be configured, but obviously it showed up there, and then it didn't get advertised. And now VLAN 20 shows up. So in the simulation you do have to turn the flex on. So I should be able to connect to this thing, and these are going to be the VLAN 20 on the two different, and we have the same signal strength, 62%. When I connect to it, now I am connected to this access point. And if I go back, and if this has worked, ipconfig, yay, and it did work. I have 192.168.20. I'm now on the 20 network. So I'm on that VLAN. through these things. So associating one with the other when we do those things. Let me get the attendance updated here, and we will then, I guess that we can go ahead and maybe I'll